Hello there.
It was obviously one of those previous naughty actors who turned it off, you see. We've left them on.
No, it's one of those people who are obviously very anal.
Clearly. Wanted to conserve battery power or something.
So good.
Shush, don't spoil the fun. Electricity's run by batteries somewhere, probably. Quick, let's get out of this. Anthony,
Yes.
first question. Why did you become an actor? How did that start for you?
Deep in it?
Yeah. I want the whole sort of philosophical background behind it.
I like to think when it was when I was about 6, there was a parent, a mother of friends who lived up the road, and every year, for some bizarre reason, she used to put on this sort of a play, and she'd rent a stage, and they put it in what was their playroom, which was this enormous barn. Hayley Mills bought the place later.
She's very good with barns, isn't she? Sorry, that's a joke that only 6 people who are old enough will actually get.
And in the second year I got promoted, somehow I became the emperor in the emperor's new clothes. I wasn't naked, I had long johns on. But I do remember walking up through the audience and sort of seeing all the heads turn to see me in procession, as it were, and thought, oh, I like this. I think I might do this. But earlier than that, when I went to like play school, the teacher, the carer, did say they actually sort of asked my parents to sort of stay behind one day and said it's really nice that Anthony turns up in costume every day, but it would be really nice to meet Anthony, or to actually sort of meet Anthony, because when I was in costume, I was whoever I was, and it was usually, and this again will go over everybody's head, it was usually Rusty from Rin Tin Tin.
All right.
Really? And I had a little 40 Jones hat with a front and a scarf, and that was enough for me to be Rusty. So I figure it was kind of probably when I was about 2 or 3, but I've never really wanted to do anything else.
But at some point, did you want to diverge into, because I know music's always been quite important to you as well. Did that come later, or was that all around?
Yeah, music came when I was in the choir at school, but when I was about 14, my brother had sort of already, by then he was 8 years older, and he'd already got into rock and roll, and so they'd been around for a long time, and so I thought, oh, that's kind of cool, and I sort of taught myself to play guitar, but kind of acting was always the route, which is why I ended up in the 80s after sort of pursuing a rock and roll career with a band and all the rest of it, and dressing in silly clothes and having ponytails and things. Rat's tails.
Are there any photographs?
There are plenty of photographs. I had a rat's tail. I didn't have a proper ponytail, but we did that in the 80s. It's a very unfortunate fashion. But I had the baggy Turk trousers, and I had the funky robot shoes. That's a shop called Robot. In fact, I just found a bunch of them. They're very cool.
Are they back in fashion?
They are, probably. But anyway, so went through all that, and at the time I think we were getting sort of close to the end of our 20s, and they were all looking at, record companies were looking at early 20s, and my partner said, look, just concentrate on acting, stop pursuing this sort of, and she was quite right. So I ended up acting and just occasionally singing, which is a good thing.
Well, now you've brought us into the 80s. Oh, I'm sorry, as somebody who first spotted you in the 80s, let's talk about those adverts. Because, in all seriousness, there aren't very many people in the world who can say that a quite international career was kick-started by a series of commercials where you suddenly became everybody's heartthrob. They just didn't know your name, but every week you were on television selling coffee, having a romance with a beautiful lady over a long period of time. That's quite something to have you at that as a career boost. Did you think it at the time? Did you think this is going somewhere? Did you work out as the adverts went on?
Jerry Green, when I first went up for it, I had just just failed to get. There was a series of Guinness ads just before the coffee ads, and it was between me and another guy, and then it turned out that what's his name? Who's the guy from Blade Runner? James.
Wesley Snipes.
They were actually
Guinness adverts.
yes, they were written for Rutger Hauer, and then they pitched it to him, and he went yes, and they went oh right, they gave it to him, but yes, those Guinness ads. And then there was another terrible ad that I did.
Oh, come on, tell us about it.
It was for a drink, a drink with pineapple and coconut in it. It's called Malibu. And it was a cinema ad, so everybody saw it, but I didn't make any money out of it at all. And that was supposed to be a series of ads. God, it wasn't. Are there any children amongst us? Good, I can swear. It was fucking shocking. I was a space Lothario, and I was in this dreadful white suit. Oh hello, a child just joined us. I'll stop the language then. And there was a pineapple girl who. They were chameleons. One was green and one was yellow.
This is fantastic.
So anyway, so the coffee ad, yeah, that basically it sort of limited how people perceived me in England. So it was like, oh, what do we do now? But it opened how people saw me in America because they'd never heard of me before. But suddenly there were doors open in America. So again, Sarah said, why don't you go over there? I'll stay here with the kids. See what you can do. And after 2 months, I got a job called VR5, which went for 12 eps, and then came and went a few times, and then I got Buffy.
Were you familiar with the movie?
Was that what?
Were you familiar with the movie?
No. Well, I'd seen it a long time before, but when my agent put me up for it, and I read the script, and I remember very well, I was sitting in a Tex-Mex restaurant in Santa Monica. It's literally splitting my sides, but not literally, obviously, because that would be, it would all come out. As I was eating. Oh dear! But I was laughing, and it's a very sad thing when you see an actor sitting on his own, pissing himself. Oh dear, time to take him, poor Johnny. And sort of just, I really wanted it, and I remember stopping, before I went to the audition, I stopped at a mate of mine, a guy called Tom McDonald, who'd been costumer on VR5, who also, as it happens, is playing piano on a couple of tracks on this album I'm doing, because he's a beautiful pianist. So, I stopped off for a cup of coffee there, and I said, I really want this gig. I really want this gig. And he said, well, you're going to get it. I will. And I went and saw Marsha Shulman, who was casting, and Joss Whedon. And they called me, that I had the usual thing with the network, and I remember my agent that night said, well, maybe you should see the film, just so you know what it's about. So I watched the film and went, what's this? This is a different thing altogether. And walked in through the door, and Joss, bless his heart, was standing seeing people in. And I went, I watched the film last night. He went, Joe, put that out of your mind. This has nothing to do with that, because he didn't have a great experience with the film.
Funny that.
Yeah. When he was 19, and they told him, they said, no, don't worry about your funny, witty, amusing script that you've written. We'll show you how to make a horror film. They really knew how to make a horror film.
So the TV show was underway, and you got the part, obviously. Did they say, right, you're tied into 7 years and you're going to stay in Hollywood all that time, or was it a sort of a bit at a time? Did you know, I suppose what I'm getting at is, did you know right at the beginning how big a part it was going to become?
It was a regular. I actually, when it came to 5 years, I thought I'd signed a contract for 5 years and found out that it was for 7. But it is a weird thing when you test, we're just talking about me testing for something in a moment. I don't think it'll happen, but you basically, once they've agreed the money and all the rest of it, you sit in a corridor and you sign the contract for 7 years before you've got the part. It's to stop, if an actor knows that they want you, then the idea is that you might go back and say, oh, you want me? All right, well, I'm going to have more money. So their way of dealing with that is to get you to sign your life away before you've got the part. And then you go in and audition for it. It's weird.
So did that cause problems then at the end of 5 years when you went, I'd like to go back to the UK, and then actually you've signed for 7 years?
It wasn't a problem, but I just said to Joss, I didn't say I thought it was for 5 years, but I did say I am struggling a little bit with being away from my family and so on. We made it work, but at the same time it was hard. And Daisy, my youngest, did say at the end of 5 years when we were going to the wrap party, and we were all a bit sad because Joss very sweetly said, look, don't leave. Will you stay on and be a recurring rather than a regular? And I said, well, what does that entail? And he said, well, we'll see how it goes, but I need you for about 6 episodes in the 6th season, or maybe 7 or 8, so that's perfect. But going to the wrap party, we're all a bit down, and Daisy said very sweetly and innocently, you've been away more than half my life. And it was like, okay, good decision, no problem.
That was quite a good comment for her then.
Yeah, it was completely innocent, she wasn't,
So, you did your little bits for the last couple of years of Buffy, then you came back to the UK. Let's talk very briefly about Doctor Who. You went in and you did an episode with David, very early on for him. What was school reunion like? What was school reunion like for you? Was it fun?
Oh, it was stunning, absolutely stunning. It was great to, it was a great script. My only sadness was that I was supposed to have wings. My wings got cut. I think it was a budgetary thing. I did come up with all sorts of ways that we could do it, but no. But it was fantastic, and it was just I loved David as the Doctor. I thought he was brilliant, and it was just it was a big. I'm always driven by script, and when they first sent it to me, I went, school teacher, I don't know. And then I talked to them. I talked to Russ, I think it was, who said, no, it's like the new Labour teacher, head teacher. He's really one of the, down with the kids, but he eats them. It's kind of cool. Do that. Basically the root of it for me was that he was animal, that he was this sort of animal demon. And once I'd kind of worked out what was driving him, that kind of flame was driving him. Made it fun. It was great. It was great fun to do. Great fun to do. And the scene around the swimming pool with David was just such fun. It was supposed to be like high noon. It was.
I think it's one of the best scenes in Doctor Who. That moment around.
In Doctor Who?
In Doctor Who. I think that face-off between David Tennant and you is just amazing. It's beautifully shot and beautifully acted and really nicely written.
Thank you. Wow.
It's why, when we came to do The Infinite Quest, the cartoon version, cartoon episode, I wanted you to come and play the villain because of that scene, because I just thought you captured that, and I also knew that David thought you were the bee's knees. He was very, very keen.
Only because he's a Red Box fan, and I did backing vocals in Red Box.
So what was it like coming and doing it? Have you done much sort of cartoon voiceover work sort of stuff before?
No, and I love it. I must admit, I've just done one, which was bizarre. It's a South American film called Foosball. Needless to say, it's about football. They say foos, we say foos. But I make myself laugh. but it was in South American. So the job of voicing it, because they're putting it in New English, is to try and, you've got this mouth going at 9 to the dozen, and you've got to try and sort of make it look like you're speaking English, which is quite a challenge. So, but that's coming out, I think, I don't know, probably next year, but they want it ready for a couple of festivals for October. Cool.
Excellent. Let's jump forward again. Let's talk about Merlin.
Merlin.
I think there might be some Merlin fans here this weekend.
Yes, they are.
Made locally, as all good programmes are made locally. How did Merlin come about for you?
Merlin actually came about. I was doing Repo. No, I lie.
You have to take that whoop back now.
I was doing The Invisibles. That's right. I was doing a show called The Invisibles. I was filming it. I was just going back to my trailer, and I had a call from Julie Gardner, actually, who was the basically showrunner, who's a great force in British television. And she's now on BBC worldwide,
in America.
but she's one of those old-fashioned producers that make a decision and stick to it, and they don't, we're not run by committee, which is the American way, which actually can sometimes be really hard to work with because everything has to be sort of run past a bunch of people who are scared that they're going to lose their job. Which is why one of the reasons that Buffy was such a joy, because nobody actually knew how good it was or what it meant. The studio had no idea, so they just left us alone for the first 2-3 seasons. Joss just kind of ran the show, and they went, "Oh yeah, it's all right." They didn't. So it's like, but yeah, it's sometimes quite difficult. And Julie Gardner's one of those wonderful producers who she just knows what she wants, and she says, "Yeah." Or no. But yeah, I got a call from Julie, and she said, "Do you want to do it?" And I kind of I went, and they sent me the scripts, and I said, well, this could go one or two ways. Either it could be quite childish and sort of quite, not really what I fancied, or it could go. Look at the first episode, the one that Eve Miles played the witch. It's brilliantly.
Yeah.
The impassioned speech she did in the village square, or the castle square, in front of a whole bunch of French, not particularly English-speaking extras or supporting artists. And it's an impassioned speech where she's shouting up at me, basically saying that, I'm about to kill her son. And she got a spontaneous round of applause from these supporting artists, which I've not often seen. You normally they've been standing around all day and they're all really bored or cold. And they were they were special people, they were great people, but also they were really moved by it. It was extraordinary. Anyway, I digress. So I said, this could be quite dark, it could be quite adult, where are you taking it? And I sat down and chatted with James Hawes, who was the director of School Reunion. And he said, no, we want this to go quite dark. We want it to be definitely a family show, but we don't want it to go sort of too light. And I believed him, and he was speaking truth. He was speaking truth. And the show turned out the way it did, which I think it was a great show. It really was. And it went darker and darker as the time went on.
And it must have been quite nice for you. Are you still sort of West Country based?
Yeah.
So not too far to come, up to Upper Boat, and then let's pop over to France now again and film in a big castle. Must have been a hard life.
The only thing was, as the seasons went on, they got more and more clever about how much we had to shoot in France. So it started off, we'd be sort of going backwards and forwards for 2-3 months in the year. Fantastic! By the end of it, it was 5 weeks. But they would do, they'd run 2 units, main units at a time, so that was all right for me, but Bradley and Colin were rattling about going from one unit to another. Not an A and a B unit, which normally A unit gets sort of, pride of place, and you occasionally go to the B unit. This is like two major units, an A and an A unit, on different storylines, and they're sort of running backwards and forwards, trying to sort of be available. I had a good time, very, very good time.
Rather like with Buffy, there is a point where you kind of go, the show hasn't finished, but I have. Was it your decision for Uther to go, or
No? I knew I had to
following the
go.
legend?
I had to go because otherwise, how was he going to be king? What I pitched to them was basically, I thought, well, how can I stay there? I said, I'll tell you what, if Uther goes mad, and basically whatever equivalent in Camelot, you have to sort of monasteries, because we sort of never touched on religion, but you'd have some sort of something, and I get carted off to sort of towers around the kingdom, and you just cut back to me occasionally, but it means that Arthur can't be king, he's a Prince Regent. Good story there.
Very George III.
Keeps me, exactly George III. Keeps me going all the way through season 4. They said, yeah, I like the idea of you going mad. They got rid of me after 3 episodes. That's not in the plan, is it? Bastards.
It's Merlin, it's a fantasy show, you can come back as a ghost or
Yes,
Yeah,
I suggested
great.
going back as a ghost. They brought me back for 1 episode. It didn't work either. They did I pitched a number of ideas, and they used them all, but differently than I'd originally considered.
That basic concept of bring me back for this period of time and they brought you back for that, that's the main difference.
Yeah.
Condensing you.
Condensing, yes.
But are you proud of it? Are you proud of Merlin? Because it was a series when it was first announced. I remember we were at work in Cardiff, in BBC Wales, and they first started talking about Merlin, and we just had Robin Hood, which, bless it, hadn't been very good. And so everyone was like, ooh.
Well, they shot it in Yugoslavia or something, didn't they? I actually was offered the show at Camelot.
I bet you're glad you said no.
Yeah.
I mean, one should say that there were some great moments in Robin Hood's. The end of the episode was actually quite good. But sort of with Merlin, it was kind of like, oh, they're going to make the same mistake again, and yet somehow it had that something about it that worked.
Well, yeah, I mean, the bottom line is they didn't, Robin Hood, I think it was Yugoslavia, I can't remember.
Yeah, well, it was Hungary, I think. It was Hungary, yeah.
I've done some stuff in Hungary, I've shot various bits and pieces, but it's a very different thing, sort of annexing yourself, and it takes a while to get to Hungary, not that long, but I mean, they looked all over the place for a castle for Camelot, and the place that they found was just beautiful and really accessible. The only thing, one of my suggestions that they didn't pick up on was we found accommodation quite difficult because there was a huge, one of the big hotels had closed literally before we started filming, and I said, well, why don't you, there's one there, why don't you buy it because it was for sale, and why don't you turn it into a theme hotel? Because while we're shooting, you've got crew and you've got actors, and you can have, you can have a few bits and pieces, bits of props here and there, and then, in the off season, people will go and stay there. That's probably a stupid idea, but
Yeah, I can just see the bean counters sitting there thinking, Merlin theme park.
Yeah.
We've got time for a few questions from the audience. There's the first one there. Let me get down to you.
Get down.
There you go.
Hi, when you were filming the beginning of season 7, you were filming at your house with Alison Hannigan.
Yeah.
How was that for you and your family? Beautiful home, by the way.
Thank you very much. It was great. I mean, it was weird getting up and going to change in our spare room. cool. But it was originally, Joss had said, could I suggest anywhere that was, he said, I'm not sure whether it should be like a cottage or a castle. I was like, I don't know that Giles would have a castle, but I know what you mean. He could be sort of looking after it for a nephew or something. But and he said, actually, would you mind if it was like we shot at your home? I went, and I thought about it, and I thought, that'd be all right. And they came to Recce, and there was supposed to be, that first scene with Alison was supposed to be me riding up on a horse, which turned out to be Otto, one of our horses. And jumping off, and she's picking meadow flowers, and it was going to be shot at the farm. That's where Sarah's work is, and basically it's sort of just up the road from our house. And I said on the Friday, I can't promise that the work, because it had been like this summer, it had been weeks in the sun, it had been fantastic, beautiful. And I said, I can't promise sun. And everybody looked at me, and I went, oh, all right. And literally on the Sunday night, it's really bad. And all the meadow grass was just flattened, the meadow flowers went to nothing, it was just hot. And Joss literally thought on his feet, he said, look, can we do it in your garden? I went, yeah, all right. And he changed all his shots, and we just did that last shot of me riding over the hill on Otto. And you can't see it, it's amazing, but the sheet rain literally is plastering my hair to my forehead. And it looks like a bright summer's day, it's extraordinary. There you go.
Got a question here.
Hi there. There was rumours of a Buffy movie. What is there? Is it just
the
rumours?
Kazooies one?
What's that?
The Kazooies, the
film of Buffy. There was always rumours. Is it just rumours? And if it wasn't, would you go back and do a movie?
Yes, of course I would. I mean, if it was Joss Whedon. It was the one that was rumoured was being made. It was Kaz and whatever it is, Kazooie, the two people that made the first film. And they brought a writer on board, and when she said, okay, when do I meet Joss Whedon? They said, no, you're not going to meet Joss. No, this is without Joss. Which is why when the word went round, and I was asked, I think, by somebody in the press, will I do it? And I said, I wouldn't do it in a million years without Joss. It'd be daft. I think it would be rude and just stupid. Thankfully, I think they've given up that idea because there was so much pressure and so many people going, well, fuck that then. If Joss, I mean, recently Sarah Michelle was quoted as saying she'd do a Buffy movie now. If you put us together, of course I'd do it. But there's so much politics involved. It's like Fox, that managed to cancel 3 of Joss's shows. Yeah, well, really, exactly. So I don't know that he'd be terribly keen to jump back in. I can't speak for him. But there are a lot of people who are involved with it. The Kazooies, for instance. It wouldn't just be a simple matter, and they would all have a say, and everybody would have talk about the script and all that. So it wouldn't be just Joss wants to make a Buffy movie. But if I don't know, maybe he'd sort of get down and say, okay, I really want to do it. I think he's kind of preoccupied at the moment. But if at 103 I get asked, yes. My answer's yes.
Got another one up here.
Hi, Tony. Well, could you give us like a little musical sneak peek from your upcoming album?
No. Hopefully it should be out in a couple of months. I've got to do the vocals. I've got 10 tracks and possibly 1 extra bonus track. But it's all I can say is it's sounding great. It's in answer to some time ago, fans said they wanted an acoustic album. So I said, all right. That's not just me playing the guitar from beginning to end, because that'd actually be slightly boring. Because I play in an open tuning, and that would get tiresome. Trust me. But there's some nice stuff on it, and I've taken the challenge of doing an acoustic album and run with it and gone, okay, right, let's see what that means. But it's cool.
Got a question here.
Which character would you like to play if you didn't play Giles?
Ooh.